Welcome to this week's Coaches Show. Joining me first is our head men's and women's soccer coach, Tom Cosgrave. Tom, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, as always.
And Tom, obviously a little bit of a weird week. You had the Tuesday off. Pretty much everybody across the state, I think, was on fall break. So it looks like the whole sport just took the break with everybody. So you only played one game this past week. That was Friday. You hosted Holmes, nationally ranked on the girls' side, was number 1 for a while, and then lost to Northwest, fell down to number 3. So hosted the number 3 Lady Bulldogs of Holmes on the girls' side. Dropped that one 4-1. Felt a little bit closer than that scoreline indicates, but how do you feel about how the girls played?
Yeah, it was a tough start against a tough team. We wanted to try and stay in the game as long as possible, and they made a few good tactical changes at the beginning of the game, which allowed them to get a couple of counterattacks and score. And so it was difficult for us to try and claw back from being a 3-goal deficit at halftime. But lots of positives to take away, though, from the second half. We fixed a few things, talked to the girls about trying to fix it and make sure defensively we were a little bit closer together and organised. And there were some positives to take away for the second half, with the score finishing 1-1 in the second half. So,
and like you talked about there, they scored some early goals. It was 3-0. I believe I have it after about the 23rd minute. It was 3-0. So, you're looking down, you're facing a 3-goal deficit really early, but then for the last 22 minutes of the first half, they don't score again. So you've got to feel pretty good going into halftime knowing, hey, we held them scoreless for 22 minutes. And then you come out early in the second half and you get what's the lone goal of the match, but you kind of feel like maybe we're going to scratch our way back into it. But talk about the goal. I know Keeley scores. I believe that's her first goal of the year, maybe second. Scores off a corner kick, but talk about the goal.
Yeah, at 3-0, we told the girls if we get one goal, we might get back in it. Momentum's massive in soccer, so we just said to just try and compete in the second half, and we fixed the things tactically, which I thought we'd come out and did. We scored a good goal off a header off a corner. It was a great ball in, and then she was just in the right place at the right time and scored a good header into the bottom corner.
Keeley gets the goal with the assist from Emmy. An assist for Emmy, that's something we've said a lot this year, so that's always a good thing to have there. And, unfortunately, like I said, it's 3-1, but unfortunately Holmes regains that 3-goal lead pretty quickly. They scored about 3 minutes later. And about the 55th minute, it's 4-1. But then again, you hold them scoreless the rest of the time for 35 minutes. So there's definitely things I think the team can take away from that. We'll talk about those in a second. We'll also talk about the fact that, Laura had 8 saves in this one. Again, another match where you lose it 4-1, but your goalie still saves, this time, about 2/3 of the shots she saved. So you've got to feel overall good about how you played defensively for the majority of the match.
Yeah, it was. We tried a new little formation, tried to see if it would work, and they were just deadly on the counter attack. They were going forward at such pace with so many numbers. It was difficult for us to gamble. We were having to take a few risks to try and go forward and try and get goals, and they were just lethal on the attack. So made it difficult for us to send numbers forward because we were worried about that. But a lot of the time that Laura was saving was from distance, and so we told her that going into it all week. We were trying to prepare her for some long distance shots, which I thought she handled them really well.
And Coach, I wish we could say it gets easier, but it really doesn't for the girls. I talked about it on the broadcast. It's been like we're in a run of like 4 straight home games, and the last 3 of them will have been against ranked opponents, and all of them top 13 or higher in the country. And then this week you get the last 2 home games and last 2 ranked matches, but unfortunately you have to welcome the number 1 team in the nation and arguably the best team in the conference. I think so far, I think they've only given up 1 or 2 goals, and that's the Lady Rangers of Northwest. You'll play them on Tuesday. What do you know about the Lady Rangers and that tough test that's coming the girls' way?
Yeah, they're all about pressure. They're gonna send 7 forward, and they're gonna defend with 3. We're just hoping that whenever we go forward and we counter attack them, that we can make it count and be a little bit clinical. And we'll see. Maybe our smaller field might help us out on the defensive side of things, and hopefully keep the score line down and give us opportunities to score and get some points from it.
So then after Tuesday, you'll welcome the 3rd straight ranked opponent. It's number 13, the Lady Wildcats of Pearl River. It's also going to be sophomore day for the Lady Wolves, so you have a lot to play for in that one. But just talk about what you know about the Lady Wildcats so far this season.
Yeah, familiar face. We always we played them last year, at the end of the season, and then played them in the playoffs as well. So it'd be nice to have them back on our home ground this year for once and play them at them. They're the same in the same situation. They're going to be a really tough team to play. Every game is difficult in this conference, but we're hoping that at this point of the season, I told the girls already, they've done so well in the first half of the season. Anything that we can take away from these games and this little stretch of games are just bonus points right now.
And obviously, some tough matches before you hopefully get into some postseason play, but that'll hopefully help moving forward as well, too. We'll jump over to the men's side. Men's team is really starting to look like a team that's kind of rounding into a shape that's really pushing for postseason play. You win this match 4-0. Talk about how the guys played.
Yeah, we talked about the schedule and everything being flipped a little bit. The girls had an easier start to the season and difficult games towards the end. Boys had a difficult start to the season, easier games towards the end. So we told the boys, as it gets into this final stretch of the season, just to try and make sure that we're getting the results that we need and taking care of business, and not so much being worried about the result, but focusing on performance first, and then hopefully the result will come in as a byproduct of how well we played.
And it's a big first half for the Wolves. A name we've talked about a lot here lately, Alfie Lally. He has just been superb for you here down the stretch. I think I factored it out during the match. 9 of the last 11 goals he's either scored or assisted on, so he's just been huge for the team. But he gets your scoring started in this one, 15th minute, strikes a PK and just beats the keeper. But talk about the play and talk about the goal.
Yeah, he had the ball in the corner of the 18-yard box, and their guy was going after him. I think he fouled him 2 or 3 times before that, and I think Alfie was trying to stay on his feet to see if he could get a shot off first, and then after I think the 3rd or 4th time he kicked him, he was like, okay, I'm going to go down now and get the penalty and just score the penalty. So he slotted it home as always. He's our penalty taker, and a couple of the boys always want to take the penalties, but he's always there making sure that he's the one that's taking it and scoring the goals.
And then another familiar name, another name we've talked quite a lot about here. Despite his early scoring struggles, he's scored quite often for you here at the end of the season. Francisco Miquel gets another goal. He gets an assist from Park Smith. Park took a shot towards the goal. I don't know if he was trying to aim it towards the goal, but bounced just off the keeper's fingers. Friends right there again, Johnny on the spot, and just kicks it in. Talk about the goal.
Yeah, Fran's getting better as the season goes along. I think he's starting to figure out kind of what we want him from his role, and he's a lot more comfortable playing through the central area. And so when the ball goes in those wide areas and people are taking shots, he's always in the 6-yard box, either there to finish it off, or if somebody spills it, the goalkeeper spills it, or a deflection, he's always there ready to tap it in. So that's a sign of a good striker, being there at the right place at the right time. But yeah, credit to Parky. He created the chance for himself, and then had a great strike across goal. We keep telling him that, keep aiming for the far post, because a lot of the times if the goalkeeper does save it, they're always going to spill it right into the middle where somebody's running in. So yeah, it was a nice goal to finish off there.
So after 24 minutes of the match, you're up 2-0. You get one more goal, and it's Alfie Lally again. He gets a first half brace, and it's something that feels like he's kind of become a specialist at here lately. It's another free kick goal and another one where he just hit a world-class strike, I think. Talk about the goal.
Yeah, it was funny actually. When we got the free kick and we seen where it was spotted, that's where he takes probably 30 free kicks after practice every single day. So as soon as the ball was put in that spot, and we were kind of making substitutes. The boys came over to get a drink. I think everybody on the field knew that he was about to go in, apart from the Holmes team. And as soon as he struck it, the keeper had no chance. And he's so good and so clinical in those areas. And credit to him, he's worked hard in this off season, and he worked hard after training as well, trying to make sure that he can be the best and put himself in those situations when it is a free kick, that he's making the most of it. So
I think I said on the broadcast, there was no doubt about that one. As soon as I saw it, I felt the same way. I was like, Alfie's going to get this one, and he did. But you're up 3-0 at halftime. But this is a Holmes team that at any time it feels like if they can get a run going, they can be just as dangerous. What's the message to the guys at halftime being up 3-0?
Yeah, we just told them to keep doing the right things. We said, they're probably going to come out with a lot of energy in the first 10 minutes, just weather that storm in the first 10 minutes, and then it'll get easier from there. They'll run out of energy and run out of gas. Credit to them. They kept on going. They kept coming at us. They made it a lot more difficult for us in the second half with the spacing behind. We missed a few chances, but we just told the boys, just keep on trying to do the right things and build off this, ready for the next couple of games that we've got going forward.
And obviously you get one more goal in the second half. Edward Bond Upton, somebody we haven't talked about lately as far as scoring goals. He's had some shots on goal, just haven't been able to find the back of the net, but this time he does from, I believe, just right outside of the top of the box, 62nd minute, and he hit a rocket past the goalkeeper. Talk about that goal.
Yeah, he should have had a couple beforehand. That we were kind of joking with him at halftime, saying that he should have had a couple, and then he got the ball at the top of the box, and it was a strange one. He just swung his left foot at it, which is his weaker foot. It came off his toe and just rolled into the bottom corner. So it was crazy to see how much power he got just from no backlift from there, but it was good, and his celebration made it even better as well afterwards.
And obviously, Leo Summers, your goalkeeper, played very well, only had 4 saves, only had to save 4 shots on goal, but a clean sheet nonetheless. I know he probably had a little bit of extra motivation with his parents being here and those kind of things, getting to watch him play in person. But one thing to keep in mind for Leo, this is his second clean sheet in the last 3 matches as he's played in goal, because obviously he didn't get to play in goal in the victory over Oxford College of Emory University. But so talk about the play of your goalkeeper, but also I think the play of your defense overall, because it speaks to how well you're playing defensively when you've gotten 2 clean sheets in your last 3 conference matches and 3 out of your last 4 overall.
Yeah, being a defensive-minded coach, I actually like a clean sheet as well, and I like it when the boys celebrate defensive clearances and tackles as much as the attackers celebrate their goals. So it's nice. It's always nice when you get a clean sheet. I think the boys are starting to figure out how each other play now. We've got a lot of new faces on the back line this year, and so there was a lot of growing pains at the beginning of the season trying to figure out everybody's different styles and what we wanted from them as players. But as you've started to see in the second half of the season now, I think they're starting to figure it out in terms of defensive roles and responsibilities. So it's always nice to see. And
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about, especially one of your defenders. I talked about him in the broadcast, Dylan Ngamlu. He's played great defense for you all year, but it really seems like the last couple of weeks, week and a half, he has just turned it up to another level. It seems like every time you need a big interception or you got to try to stop a counter, any kind of forward momentum, Dylan's right there, Johnny on the spot to just clear the ball out and keep and maybe make a counter for your own team.
Yeah, we had a chat with him a few weeks ago about it in training. We needed him to push a little bit more and be a little bit more of a leader in training. And the last couple of weeks, he's been getting after it in practice, and so he's been pushing the boys and making the intensity in practice a lot better. And I think that's shown as well with on the field performances as well, because then he's going in at the same intensity. And he's such a smart defender as well. He reads the game really well. So even whenever teams have got counter-attacks and it's 2v1 and he's the only defender on his own and the other team should score, he can read the game really well where he can stop that and eliminate the counter. So, yeah, he's been doing really well.
And obviously the same 2 opponents for the guys as the girls this upcoming week. You'll play Northwest on October 17th. That's this upcoming Tuesday. A team that struggled a bit last year, looks like they're better this year, and they've kind of had the same kind of season that y'all have had, been up, been down. Right now they're fighting for a postseason appearance just like the Wolves are, but what do you know about that team going into that matchup?
Yeah, they've got some good results. They've improved drastically from last year, so credit to them for getting better. It's going to be a big game tomorrow because both of us are kind of fighting for that playoff spot, so we want to make sure that we can take care of business here, and hopefully after a long drive for them, and we can get at them and get the game won and get the 3 points, and then hopefully that'll kind of trump us in terms of getting above them in the playoff and the conference standings. So yeah, big game for the boys tomorrow.
And obviously, again, you'll end the week with the Wildcats of Pearl River, another team I think very similar to the Rangers of Northwest. They've been up, they've been down, and again they're fighting for a postseason berth as well too. What do you know about the Wildcats going into that one and that test that's coming up for the guys at the end of the week?
Yeah, I think they've kind of been similar to us. They started the season off a little bit shaky, but as the season's progressed, they've started to figure out their best formation, best players, and they're doing really well. They're definitely a threat going forward with the attacking players that they've got. We'll just see how they do defensively when we go at them on Friday and hopefully get the 3 points.
All right, Coach. Well, that'll wrap up all of our segments here. Thanks for joining me again. Again, the Lady Wolves and Wolves will face off against Northwest Community College on Tuesday, October 17th, and then Pearl River Community College on this upcoming Friday as well. We'll have both of those games at CoLinAthletics.com streaming, but always come to Stone Stadium and check them out. Those will be the last 2 home games. Friday will be sophomore day for both soccer teams as well. I'm Kevin Kaiser, Sports Information Coordinator here at Co-Lin. Thanks for tuning in. Stick on the other side of the break. We're going to talk to head football coach Glenn Davis about the Wolves' big win against the previously unbeaten number 4 Bulldogs of Gulf Coast. Welcome back in. Thanks for tuning in after the break. Joining me now is head football coach Glenn Davis. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And Coach, let me be the first to congratulate you again. Huge win for your guys there. You go on the road. You beat the previously unbeaten 4th ranked in the nation Bulldogs of Gulf Coast. Just talk about how big that win is and how well your guys played throughout the whole game.
Well, I mean, the big thing we talked to our guys about all week was trying to make it a 60-minute game. And, I thought kids really did a great job of buying into that and kept fighting all the way through. And like I say, anytime you beat a top-ranked team, it's a feather in your cap. And, I thought they really responded well. Really proud of them.
Coach, I had several people ask me throughout the week, and they asked me, what does it take to beat a team like Gulf Coast? And I told everybody, I said, you're going to have a similar effort like you had against East Miss. And I think if you look at the stat line and really the box score, you really did have that similar effort, and that's kind of what led to the win.
I mean, defensively we played really sound. We did have a few plays where they made some big plays, but for the most part we kind of, made them drive the football to have to score points. And then offensively we were able to do the same thing. We were able to drive the ball, keep their offense off the field. And we were really solid in the kicking game. We could have done some things better, but, for the most part, we were solid.
Coach, obviously, we'll start like we do every week. We'll talk about some impact players. We'll start on the offense, and we'll start with the quarterback. Devon, I think, bounced back from a game against, like we talked about, against Kahoma. Didn't have his best outing in this one, much better. 22 of 31 for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 really big touchdowns there in the second half. Just talk about the way that Devon was able to kind of bounce back and have a really, really good game against a great team.
Well, I mean, he practiced well all week, and that's usually, a big indicator of how a guy's going to play is how they practice during the week. And, he put in the work, and the 2 drives in the second half you mentioned were one, I think, was after a turnover, and, we were able to score points on both of those drives and go up. And, that was really big, a big confidence boost for our football team.
Coach, obviously a few more guys that really stuck out. I think Johnny Daniels, your running back, he comes off his first 100-yard game and almost has another 100-yard game, but comes just short, but did have 13 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Just talk about how solid he was all game for you.
He was. He played really well. He had the long run, and on that one play, I think he broke like 6 or 7 tackles. And, for the game, I think he had like 10 or 12 missed tackles. And those are things that we actually had talked about a lot, that we were going to have to break tackles to make plays, and because they were pretty stingy on defense. And I thought that both backs, Johnny and Trey, both responded with that.
Coach, obviously in the receiving game, had a couple of guys that really stuck out. One guy, we've talked about him a little bit, talked about the fact that he made a position change, and I think you really saw him really get comfortable with the position this week. That was Tyler Fortenberry. He had 3 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Just talk about how solid Tyler was. I know he had 2 of his catches were on the same drive where he scored, and both of them were just felt like huge catches at the time.
One was for a first down, and he kind of uncovered himself, and Devon found him and threw it to him, and he made a really good, nice run after the catch. And then the touchdown catch, we've kind of given him the devil this week since we've been back. How did it cross his mind about dropping the ball? And he said it actually, he was so wide open that he was afraid to. But like I say, he played really well, and he was big in the game, and just especially in that one drive.
Right. Well, we'll talk about that touchdown in a little bit. But the other one, it's a name we've talked a lot about. And he just, again, it's Jalen Smith. He just keeps finding ways to just be kind of Mr. Reliable for you. He may not have all the yardage, but he's always up near the top in receptions. He had 5 this week. That was second most. 5 catches, 36 yards, and he had a TD. Ultimately would be the last TD. We'll talk about the play. That's going to play a little bit later. But just talk about how reliable Jalen's been for you all year.
He has. He's been, the guy that's going to make the catch when we need it. He's really close to busting some of those short throws that we've thrown to him and the bigger plays. And, those are things that, I think are just going to eventually going to happen for him, where his yards are going to triple. And but he's been dependable, and he's made some fine catches.
And defensively, if you look at the box score and the stat line for your defensive unit, maybe nobody really jumps out at you. I know Jerron had an 11-tackle game, second game in a row where he's had double-digit tackles, so he had a really good game. But everybody else, it just kind of felt like it was just a whole great effort by your defensive unit. You had 3 forced fumbles. You recovered 2 of those. We didn't have any sacks, but you got after the quarterback a lot. I think 4 quarterback hurries, 4 pass breakups. Talk about how the defense as a whole played.
Well, I mean, the big thing is, like I said, they bent, but they didn't break. And then, the big thing is I thought we tackled better than we did in the Kahoma game. And I thought, you talked about pressuring the quarterback. Sometimes you don't have to sack him. You just have to make him uneasy, make him get off his spot. And I thought they did a great job of that. And then I thought our DBs really responded to their receivers because they're pretty good at receiver.
And Coach, obviously, we'll jump straight to the scoring summary because we'll talk about some of those standout defensive guys throughout it as well too. We've talked in the past few weeks about how good it is or how important it is to get off to a fast start. Didn't really see that fast start, but fortunately, it seemed like the Gulf Coast offense wasn't off to a fast start either. Really defensive battle throughout the first half of the game. None more so prevalent than the fact that defense scores your first touchdown. It's a forced fumble by none other than Billy Pullen, who's just been all world all year. The numbers there, you look at him and you think maybe they're not there. Well, defensive lineman, he's playing really great. There's a lot of times he's getting pressures and those kind of things, but he forces the fumble. Dietrich Hicks picks it up, and I think it might be the fastest I've ever seen him run because he was in the end zone before anybody could blink, and you're up there. Just talk about that play and how much of a huge momentum swing it was.
It was big. Like I said, they forced their quarterback off his spot. He kind of stepped up, and Billy looped back around behind him and knocked the ball loose, and Dietrich caught it on the bounce and scored. It was mighty big.
And so you're up 7-0 after the successful PAT by Brandon Gillum. And unfortunately, the lead was a little short-lived because the next drive, Gulf Coast bust one loose, 57 yards. Running back made a couple little moves and was able to score, and then it's tied. And really, at the end of the first quarter, it stays that way. Neither offense could really get an edge at that point. It's 7-7. Talk about how you're feeling after the end of the first quarter. It's probably a lot closer than a lot of people expected, but it's got to be feeling great to be tied after the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I thought when you play in big games like that, there's going to be some field position battles, and there's going to be who turns the ball over, who doesn't, and I thought our kids responded as far as making the game a hard fought game, and it's not one of those games where it was a blowout and that kind of stuff. Is that they just kept playing really hard, and we talked about. Every quarter, every time there was a timeout, I kept reminding them how many more minutes were left in the game, and that's what we wanted to make. It was a 60-minute game.
Coach, then you go into the second quarter. Gulf Coast takes their one and only lead throughout the whole game. I think that may stand out to a lot of people is that Gulf Coast pretty much trailed or was tied for most of this game, only held the lead for just a short while. They scored on, I believe it was a 19-yard field goal, so they're up 10-7 with 8:08 left. And again, it's something that we've talked about a lot, but how the team has responded all year to somebody taking the lead or somebody scoring or somebody tying. They responded immediately. Next drive, this is the big one for Johnny. He gets the 65-yard touchdown run. We were talking right before we started. Just a magnificent run. He broke 6 or 7 tackles, but just talk about the play.
Well, I mean, it was zone play, and like I say, the ball bounced outside, and anytime he gets out in space, he's subject to be hard to handle out there, and I thought, like I say, broke several tackles and cut back against the grain, and the receivers did a great job of once he got in the secondary, they were in front of people, and usually when you have long runs, it's because those guys did their job downfield, and that was kind of the case there.
So the Gillum again with another successful PAT makes it 14-10 with 7:15 left. And I think the bigger thing that will stand out to a lot of people if you look at it is at that point you never relinquished the lead. You never gave it back. Gulf Coast it never felt like they had a chance to get it back either. Defense just kind of locked down, played great throughout the remainder of the half. You're up 14-10 at halftime. What's the message to the guys at halftime?
30 more minutes to play, and that's we kept talking about that, and the thing that we felt like if we could just keep making it to that 60 minutes, and we'd give ourselves a chance to win. And the big thing I knew is that coming out of the Jones game, I really found out a lot the character about our football team is how hard they were going to play and not ever give up, and that's the kind of emphasis that we put into this game is that it was going to take the same kind of intensity. We had to play smarter. We didn't play as smart in the Jones game at times, but we played awful hard, and that was the thing that we were all week. We were trying to make sure they knew that you go on the road to beat good people, you have to play smarter, And I thought we for the most part, we did that.
And Coach, we go to the third quarter, and I feel like the third quarter is really probably the biggest difference in the game. Yeah, Gulf Coast is a team I think you've seen all year that, they've had teams kind of punch them, and they've either punched back or they've given them several counter punches that the team hadn't been able to fight back. I don't think they've had anybody really do what our team did to them in the third quarter. And we came out, first drive, looks great, ends up being a touchdown drive. This is where Tyler Fortenberry had his 2 big catches, none bigger than the 25-yard receiving touchdown, first passing touchdown of the game for Devon. Ran a little bit of a trick play. I think you kind of caught him napping there. They weren't expecting it. You ran a little flea flicker. Talk about the play, and just, again, it felt like a really big momentum-shifting play because at that point you've got a 2-score lead.
Right. We always, we're big on running gadget stuff, and we try to watch what people do, and we kind of scheme up stuff that, we see how teams do certain things, and we just felt like it was a great opportunity. Mike came up with the play and the call, and there's just perfect timing, and the kids just executed it, really well. I mean, there was probably more than one guy open for a touchdown on the play, and so I mean, like I say, you scheme up stuff, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But these are plays that we usually work on Wednesdays, and the kids seem to remember those kind of plays because it's something that involves them in, and so we kind of have a lot of fun with those plays.
And again, another successful PAT by Gillum. You're up 21-10, and there's 10:36 left. And Gulf Coast gets the ball back, and it looks like maybe they're trying to build some momentum, really start kind of driving. And they get the ball. They're on about their 23, and they get a kind of a long pass. But then your defense steps up again. Xavion Shaw pops the receiver, pops the ball loose, and it just goes into Navarian Benson's lap, and he just takes off. And I really thought he was going to score on the play, but ended up getting about 29 yards and sets you up on the 23-yard line. Talk about that play.
That was big. I mean, like I say, the hit and then Duke being in the right place at the right time, and then picking it up and running it, changed field position and everything on one play. And
that ultimately led to a second passing touchdown for Devon. This time he found Jalen Smith 4 yards out. I think Jalen just kind of looked like a little bit of an option route. He goes to the front pylon, and Devon finds him. But talk about the play, and talk about, again, just felt like another big momentum play because it took 3 plays and you scored, and it just kind of felt like you really put Gulf Coast back against the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it was a one-man route. We kind of max protected, and we rolled the quarterback. We've been running the play for several years here now. It's, we've had different guys run it through the years, and we actually call the play pylon. He runs 5 or 6 yards deep in the end zone, and the ball's thrown to the pylon, and so it's not real hard. We've had all kind of former receivers text me and say, "Coach, I think I've recognized that play." Malik Heath caught a touchdown on the same play against Jones. Donald Gray's caught touchdowns of it, and so we've run that play for a pretty good while.
So, again, we're up 28-10, 7:15 left in the third quarter, and it's pretty much that same score. Again, you had a chance to add some more points on the board. I went for, I believe it was a 47-yard field goal from Gillum. Looked good from the angle that I had in the press box. I talked to him after. He felt like he made it, but the official said it was no good. I think it may have gone over the crossbar. So nonetheless, though, you're up 28-10 going into the final quarter. I would assume the message again is we got 15 more minutes, boys. We got to close this out.
Yeah, that's exactly what we said.
And, I think if you look, the fourth quarter may have been, you don't want to say your worst quarter, but it's the only quarter that you didn't score in. And unfortunately, they scored 2 touchdowns. Now, the first one on just a 70-yard run, the running back just found the hole and was gone. I think we had a couple guys get within 2 steps of him, but none of them can make the play. So there's that, but it's still 28-17, and you've got 10:53 left. And I think the bright spot is when you look at that, the team does respond immediately. We started marching the ball down. Everything's looking well until I think Devon maybe missed the linebacker sit down in the coverage or something like that. Guy picks him off. 65-yard interception return. It's 28-23 because Gulf Coast fails on the 2-point conversion. How big was it to keep them out of the end zone on that 2-point conversion?
I think it kept it from being a field goal to tie, and then they got to score a touchdown. And so anytime you can, you'd like for it to be 9 points where touchdown 2-point conversion can't handle, and we'd love not to have thrown the pick 6 and all those things. So the game's not it's kind of a mute issue when you get to that point. But big thing is that, like I say, the guys responded offensively. I think we have a 4 or 5 minute drive, and so we run some time off of it. Then we have to punt, and then they drive it down, and then we have to fight like the devil to hold on in.
And
it was, like I say, the 2-point play that they didn't get was mighty big defensively. It was a big play.
And I think, well, it goes without saying, the biggest plays were probably in that last drive. They do get the ball back. They march all the way down. I think they get it down to about the 13-yard line. And they're going to have at least a couple of opportunities. It's third and goal or third and whatever from the 13. They're looking to score right there. And Dietrich Hicks comes up with just another huge play. He only had 2 tackles. And this was not a tackle, but what happened is, if you go back and look at it, Eli Anderson drops back to throw, and all of a sudden, I'm watching it, and I saw Dietrich just come storming through a gap, and he popped the quarterback as soon as he threw it. That ball goes incomplete. And I think the bigger thing is the fact that Anderson has to miss the next play because he didn't get up, and they had to call the trainer out and those kind of things. So then Gulf Coast has to bring in a backup quarterback for that final play. And I think everybody for Co-Lin kind of collectively held their breath until it was called incomplete. Just talk about the feelings on those last couple of plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4th and 10, and we felt like we had a good call, and it was kind of scary because some part of our defense didn't get communicated what we were doing on one side, so they actually had a guy open, and fortunately for us, we were able to get enough pressure on him that he didn't have time to be looking all over the place. But like I say, it was big. It's 4th and 10, and then the next 3 plays of the game are the best plays in football and victory. So
anytime as a head coach you get to call victory, you always love it, and especially when you get to hand a very good team their first loss on the year. So up next, it's still going to be a tough test. I know it's a Pearl River team. I know they haven't had a successful year, but I know they were a team last year that just gave a lot of people fits, especially down near the end of the year. I know they're going to come out here and give us everything that we want and then some, but what are you expecting out of that bunch?
Well, the big thing I can say about them is they play extremely hard. I mean, they're extremely well coached for what they do, and their kids play very hard, and that's the thing that we've got to make sure we do is play as hard as they do, and if we do those things, we'll give ourselves every opportunity to win the ball game. And but that's the one thing I can say about their football team is how hard they play.
Coach, obviously the big win, not only was it a huge win, but it also kind of keeps you in kind of a driver's seat as far as positioning for playoffs and those kind of things. Something that the last couple of years hasn't necessarily been something we've been able to talk about this late in the year, but how big is it to be able to look now and really your future is in your own hands. All you've got to do is win out, and you've set yourself up pretty well to be able to make the postseason.
Well, the big thing is we just got to win one game at a time. We got to go 1-0 each week, and right now our total attention is to Pearl River, and then the next week it's East Central, and then the next week it's Hines, and then things will fall in place if we do what we have to do. But right now, all we can concentrate on is Pearl River.
All right. Coach, thanks for joining me as always. That'll wrap up our segment for football. Again, Wolves with a big win over the previously unbeaten number 4 Bulldogs of Mississippi Gulf Coast. And again, just to remind everybody, lots of action at H.L. Stone Stadium this week, lots of home action. Lady Wolves and Wolves soccer, both their games will be at home this week. First will be Tuesday, October 17th against Northwest, and then Friday against Pearl River Wildcats. And then we'll have the football game on Thursday as well, too. Wolves get to come back home to the friendly confines of Stone Stadium. That'll be 6:30 for that kickoff. It'll be the pink out game at Stone Stadium, so everybody wear your pink for breast cancer awareness and to support the Wolves. And we'll also have our national championship ring celebration and ceremony for our Lady Wolf softball team during halftime. I'm Kevin Kaiser, Sports Information Coordinator here at Co-Lin. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.